Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com. This video is another in my practice session series for the Red Hat Certified Specialist in Linux Diagnostics and Troubleshooting exam EX342. Before I dive in, I want to thank returning subscribers for watching another video, as well as invite anyone who's watching, if you haven't subscribed, to click the subscribe button. Also, a reminder that these are my practice sessions for the exam. I'm going through all of the posted objectives from Red Hat and am trying to either explain the objective or do some examples related to the objective. And the goal is to assess whether or not I feel confident with the objective for the exam. So at the end of the video, I'll do a little self-assessment and hopefully I'll be confident. If not, I have 1 week before my exam to do some final review and maybe bringing some information back to the front part of my head that I haven't thought about in a while. So that being said, these should not be used as tutorials, nor should they be considered authoritative information. I do try to have the information accurate because hopefully at this point in my preparation I haven't learned something wrong, but understand I'm still learning. So for that reason, I would not use these as tutorials or authoritative information. So the question becomes, why am I doing this? Well, I'm put these out on the internet in hopes of others that might be working toward this exam might see what I'm doing as a final review practice session for something and get some ideas of things that they could also do to prepare for the exam. So we're continuing on in the troubleshoot and fix network connectivity issues, and we're going to look at identify and fix network connectivity issues. I'm not sure how many real examples I'm going to do of this, as much as just sort of talk about the objective. The thing with network connectivity is there's so many things that can affect it, but it basically is going to boil down to, is the traffic allowed between your starting point and the point you're trying to reach, and any points that traffic might go to in between. And then if the traffic is allowed, is there anything to accept the traffic? For example, or I guess I could do this. This will be kind of a obvious little example, but it'll prove the point. So we'll do lab server 3 for this and become root. And let's install good old HTTPD. And in addition, we are going to, actually, no, we're not going to enable that yet. And as I said, this is going to be kind of a contrived example. And so one of the challenges of preparing for a troubleshooting exam is because when you break something, then generally you know what you did to break it. Not always, and there can be a lot of learning with that. But this will kind of illustrate maybe some method of troubleshooting. I imagine the exam objectives are going to be, they aren't going to be specific, hey, go fix this thing, but it's going to be something like, a user is complaining they can't load the web page on, in this example, lab server 3. Go fix it. The objective on the exam will be something like that. Of course, I don't know. I haven't had the exam yet, and even if I did know from the exam, I can't tell you because of NDA and all that. But I imagine that's what some of these questions are going to be like. It's not going to be, go to lab server 3 and ensure that HTTPD is running, and on and on and on. It's going to be, we can't get to the web page and it should be here. So let's say, actually, let me put this to the test. I said I wasn't going to have an example, but maybe this will work. So we should be able to go to labserver3.ejslab.com and, we can't get the web page. So one of the first things you might try to do is, let's see if we can ping lab server 3. I tend to not start with that just because I've been on so many networks where ICMP traffic is dropped. That's usually not the first thing that I will do. But if I were really kind of starting from the beginning, I would make sure that I have a valid IP address on my workstation, and I do, 151. Do I have name resolution? So I can do, I think host is the command that you can kind of go through your DNS resolver stack with. So let's see what this returns. Actually, that's a mistake that I've made. I did not do lab server 3. So let's make sure that still doesn't work, and it doesn't. So step 1 of troubleshooting, try to load the page from the right server, right? So this should return, no, I just happen to know I have this in my, I know why. This is probably actually checking DNS. Well, if I were to, actually this is where I do use ping some. I will use ping to see if I have name resolution. Yes, I can use dig, but I find myself using ping to do that because if you feed ping a fully qualified domain name, it's going to try to resolve it. So this tells us name resolution is working. We have this here. At this point, what I would do if I know name resolution works and I just happen to be on a network that allows ping, and so traffic is being passed, I would then go to the server to try to figure out what's going on. And I have a bad habit sometimes of just doing a quick SS to see if something's listening before actually looking at the service, but I see nothing is listening on port 80. So, we can take a look at HTTPD and we see that, oh, it's not running. So let's try to start it. I didn't see any errors. Then of course, if HTTPD doesn't start, then you would go through a whole nother, troubleshooting tree of why is HTTPD not starting. And I'll verify that there actually is something listening, and there is port 80. So let's see if we can load our web page now. Do HTTP because I know, and yeah, Firefox might try to force HTTPS, but it's still not connecting. So at this point, I would be thinking, okay, can we actually get traffic here? Now I could test NC just to see, but in my opinion, that's a bit of a waste of time because if the browser can't get there at port 80, then NC is not going to be able to get there at port 80. It's not going to have this magic, oh, well, we'll allow NC traffic, but not the browser traffic. And yes, I know there's HTTPS in the bar. I think by default, Firefox will try to force HTTPS. All right, so what I would then do, and this on some things I'll do old iptables-l, or I might look at nftables rule list before I do firewall command, but I happen to know this is a firewall D system. So we can do list all, and that'll give us ports, it'll give us services and such. And I see that HTTP is not a service and the port is not allowed. So firewall command, add port 80 TCP. Now, you can do this as permanent, so that way it persists, but you have to reload it. What I've got to where I do is add the port, and then if things work, I use the -- runtime to permanent to keep it there. So now that we've added 80, let's see if this will load. And it does. Loads the Red Hat Enterprise Linux test page. Yay, things are done. Or are they? Remember, everything on a Red Hat exam has to survive a reboot. So systemctl, I didn't spell that right, systemctl is enabled HTTPD, and it is not enabled. So we will need to enable HTTPD so that way when we reboot Lab Server 3, it'll come back up. But that would be a basic network troubleshooting thing. Another thing that you might run into is a misconfigured interface. So let's take a look at the interfaces that I have available. I have one named after the NIC that is there. If I had a static IP address, actually I'm going to do const show, and then that there we can see all of the different aspects of it. IPv4 is done by, I am using manual IPv4. Well, if you have a misconfiguration here, you can use nmcli commands to alter the configuration. For DNS, if you change that, actually if I were to cat etc resolve.conf, it's going to tell you this is generated by Network Manager. Almost every tutorial when I was learning about Network Manager says restart Network Manager service. That will work. I have also seen and frankly use often just bring down and up the interface. I've sometimes seen restarting Network Manager and changes not be reflected. I can't tell you why. I can't tell you the pattern, but just in my experience, I will, if I can, unless I'm in some situation where I absolutely cannot bring down and up a network interface, such as I can't get console to something, and I'll break my SSH connection, which SSH can sometimes recover from that, but bring down and up the network connection. You might be in a situation where you have a connection that doesn't have a device. Again, you can use nmcli, I think it's if name, and make the connection happen. There's also nmtui. I don't know if I actually have this installed. Oh, I do. It's kind of a, it's not it's technically a text user interface, but it would allow you to do the NMCLI stuff. NMCLI is well documented with both tab completion, which you'll use often, and -- help, and then man pages. So if you have, I'm fairly familiar with it, with needing to do basic interface configuration. So I shouldn't have to use man for a lot. But I do have, actually, let me go into my Eddie directory. There it is. So this is a little setup script that I made for my little lab environment when I spin up a new VM. And in that lab environment, I used to have to add a connection. So instead of it being con mod, this will be con add name. Or I guess I could do that. Let's see. I'm not going to be able to I only have a single NIC on this though. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to demonstrate this one, but to add network manager interface is actually not that difficult. Con add the name, you'll tell it the type, which will be Ethernet, if name, and all of that should tab complete for you. If for some reason it does not, you want a package called bash completion, and let's see, it should be available here. Yeah, bash completion. You'll want to install that, and you should be able to, because the environment that you're going to be in, albeit it is not going to have internet access, because of course Red Hat doesn't want you consulting Dr. Google while you're doing your exam, but I think you generally have access to Red Hat repos, like the basic, base OS and AppStream, so you would be able to get bash completion if it's not already installed. Now, of course, I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, then you have to use -- help and all that kind of stuff, but NMCLI should allow tab completion. Thinking through some other things for fixed network connectivity issues. I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole and you can have like MTU problems, maximum transmission unit, and your NIC is trying to send too large of packets and such. You have routing problems, IP route, IP add. The challenge with the routes, I guess that could be something. Take a look at your routing table with IP route, and you can add routes and such. To make them persistent, I'm trying to think, that might be something that would be worth just reviewing, because I can't remember off the top of my head how to make a route added with IP route persistent. I wonder. I mean, you can probably run a startup script that does it, but I'm sure there's probably a more elegant way to do it. It's honestly not something I do very often, is permanently add routes to a system. Because I know if you do it this way, just with the IP route command, it's not going to persist. Huh. That I think that'll be something worth maybe taking a look at this weekend. Just see if I have that in my head. I have a feeling we're probably not going to have to do that on the exam. Of course, I might not. I don't know. But yeah, that would be something that I want to get under my fingers. So I think for this objective, I can probably handle this pretty well. Doing static routes with IP route and making it persistent, that is something that I, off the top of my head, cannot remember how to do. So I might want to review that. But other just basic configuration of network and just general troubleshooting methodologies for network connectivity. Obviously not a master of everything, but I think I would be able to handle that fairly well. So hopefully you found this video useful. My little example was kind of hokey, maybe is the right word for that. But if you did find it useful, make sure you do click like. Also, returning subscribers, thank you so much for watching another video. And if you're watching and you haven't subscribed, do click that subscribe button. Ring the bell when you do that so you know when I post new content. I haven't done it in a while, but I've been trying to get through all of these exams for my certification. But eventually that will pass and I'll have time to bring up videos. So ring the bell so you know when it happens. Thanks again for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.